So Caitlin Clark is a hell of a player, but to say Caitlin Clark was not a flawed player is just wrong in my opinion.
In addition to making waves in the WNBA with her distinctive step back three, Caitlin Clark has been covertly changing her body to look more toned and prepared to face the defenders. Hold on tight, because we're going to explain how Clark went from being bullied to becoming an unstoppable force on the court, and why every WNBA defender should be concerned. You're undoubtedly wondering how this happened and what it means for the league.
Like, every time you're seeing Caitlin Clark out, it's like, okay, she's not as skinny as she was. And this is someone who, like, that's something that she really needs to, that's something she really needs to do.
You may be wondering, oh no, is this going to be another talented college player who can't handle the W? But hold on, because Clark wasn't about to let that happen. Remember how Caitlin Clark looked last season? She was being pushed around like she was made of paper, and it was difficult to watch. Let's go back to those rookie struggles, where Clark was trying to score, but the defenders were just bodying her up like it was nothing.
So Caitlin Clark in college was not the strongest player in the world. Like, she was somebody that wasn't weak by any means, but we saw when it came to the WNBA that she wasn't able to really assert herself physically.
You see, Clark's first season in the WNBA was like a baptism by fire. Over the course of those first 4 games, she faced some of the toughest players in the league, not just any old defenders. It seemed like the schedule makers decided to put her right in the thick of things, with defenders capable of making even seasoned pros look like rookies, and Clark, just out of college, trying to hold her own.
In fairness, her first game matchup was a tough one, because her first matchup was against Dijonais. Second matchup was against Benai Hamilton. Third matchup against Benai again. Fourth matchup against Dijonais again. So we're looking at the team that has their first 4 games against the freaking Sun and someone for the toughest defenders. And from that point on, it did seem like she was basically that she wasn't physically up to being a top guard.
However, this is where things start to get interesting. You may be wondering how much stronger Clark has become, but prepare yourself, because this is going to blow your mind. Clark started working out at the gym this morning.
She has gotten significantly bigger. Stephanie White has confirmed it. Stephanie White has gone out here and confirmed that Caitlin Clark has been bulking up. Like, that she's bulked up as a player and that she's no longer like skinny and weak.
Clark has been working out with weights so intensely that her arms resemble tree trunks. This isn't simply a slight tone. Rather, it's a significant bodily change that goes beyond appearances. Clark has a whole new level of strength, according to her coach, Stephanie White. Can you imagine what that means on the court?
Is like, one, is Caitlin Clark stronger, or do you expect her to get stronger? And 2, like, what's realistic, like, in terms of from a great first year to now second year in the league, where, you know, it's not as new anymore, right? And you sort of know how the league plays, if nothing else.
Yes, she is stronger, first and foremost. And again, she's got a lot of self-awareness. And, she figured that out, right away. Like, I need to get stronger. I can't get knocked around as much.
You understand the meaning of that new strength, don't you? The defenders who believed they could bully Clark will be in for a major surprise, because she will suddenly be the one pushing as she drives to the hoop. That is how much of a difference her off-season effort made.
Not that she was like too weak to be in the W, but like she was too weak to be like an imposing presence in the W like she was in college, because she could be physically dominated. And then obviously we have seen throughout the off-season, we have seen like some of the transformation.
You may be wondering how thin Clark used to be, so let me give you an idea. People were saying that she was extremely thin, and that's a problem in the WNBA, because unlike in college, where you can make your living solely on skill, in the WNBA you need to have a physical presence to make an impression. Clark is now gaining that presence.
Done a great job of getting in the weight room and really focusing on her areas that she needs to focus on in terms of strength, in terms of low center of gravity, time under tension, like all of those things. I think the next step is efficiency, right? Like, not so many turnovers.
With her additional strength, Clark can now successfully use post-up plays against defenders and won't only be a threat from the three-point line. There would be a completely different aspect to Clark's game if she were to back down a defender and use her newly discovered strength to create space before either scoring or passing it off to a teammate.
I genuinely think that Caitlin Clark had quite a lot of flaws, but so is still, even with flaws, she was that good that if she can figure out those flaws, she's going to be the best player ever. But that's the reality of the situation. And one of them was that she was very skinny.
And let's face it, this change goes beyond the season. Clark is planning for the long term and preparing herself to be a dominant force in the game for years to come. This kind of commitment transforms excellent players into great ones, and great players into legends.
When it comes to Caitlin Clark, it's one of those things where, as good as she is, there are weaknesses, and it's clear to Stephanie White, who basically game one had the blueprint for how to beat Caitlin Clark.
Obviously, you're wondering if Clark can really use the new muscles she's been gaining. Well, get ready, because she's not only stronger, but her game has completely changed. This isn't the Caitlin Clark you saw last season. She's given her play a whole new dimension that will leave defenders baffled.
Still, Stephanie White knows what she's talking about, and confirming Caitlin Clark is stronger is going to help a lot, because we saw after Olympic break when Caitlin Clark got stronger that she was posting up guards. Like, she doesn't have very many post moves, but that bang, double bang with her left shoulder into the turnaround layup floater thingies off the backboard, it worked really well. And like, we saw her taking some bigger guards in the post.
Remember how Clark used to primarily rely on her speed and shooting? Don't worry, those are still there, but she's now expanding her arsenal of power moves that will make her a nightmare to defend. The tiny guards who used to cause her problems are about to have a rude awakening.
If she's able to play a little bit in the post and able to shoot over people, that it becomes really difficult to put, for example, to put somebody like a Jordan Cannon on her.
Clark has been practicing her post-up technique, and it's really paying off because she's suddenly ignoring lesser guards as if they weren't there. With her back to the basket, Clark uses her newly developed muscles to create space before turning for a simple basket. This is a completely new weapon in her arsenal, and defenders will need to reconsider how they defend her.
Yeah, so she's going to have that in her arsenal, and it's going to make her harder to defend. It's going to make her way, way harder to defend because, if you can't bully her, it means that the Dijonais hand check through three-quarter court isn't going to be allowed.
It's a huge improvement over her rookie season, though, as Clark is now finishing at the rim with authority, utilizing her shoulder to create space and make those difficult layups look easy. Defenders are no longer pushing her off course when she drives to the bucket. This is where things start to become pretty interesting. Clark's extra strength isn't just helping her score goals, it's also improving her passing game in unexpected ways, allowing her to hold off defenders longer and open up previously unexisting passing lanes.
She was a lot skinnier when she was working out with when she was in Iowa. And like, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, where I'm like, there is nobody that's like, there's no one that wants to get better in the W. I'm not, to say no one is maybe gassing it, but there may not be anyone that wants to get better more than Caitlin Clark. And I mean that. There may not be a single person that wants to get better more than her.
Imagine Clark encircled by defenders, but instead of being stripped, she's squeezing through and locating an open teammate for a simple assist. This would increase her already potent playmaking ability.
If you want to see how much she's bulked up, she is really, really bulked up this last year. And if you've seen a lot of guards, especially with the way they come in the WNBA, it does take them a while to physically get used to it.
You may be wondering, okay, but will this actually have that much of an impact? What some analysts have to say about it, though, is that they believe Clark's new physicality might help her average double figures in assists and points. Take a moment to process that. A double-double in points and assists is the type of stat line you see from the greatest players of all time.
I think that, or second, with Caitlin Clark, that's a really, really important thing. You can do it gradually. And I don't think she bulked up like a crazy amount. Like, she's not going to be physically destroying people. I just don't think she's going to quite get bullied as much as she did.
Clark is developing into a complete player who can harm you from anywhere on the court, but she isn't stopping there. She's been working on every facet of her game, starting with her left hand, which she now uses to improve her mid-range shooting. You can bet she is also working on her floater game.
Like, there was a couple of times you could see her arms, you're like, okay, she's gotten a lot bigger. And I do like the fact that she, by the end of the season, she was taking people in the post a little bit more. And that's the one thing I like with Caitlin Clark, is that not that she's got good post footwork, but she's got a good ability to kind of like bump with her left shoulder and then shoot over her right. That kind of layup hook shot.
The worrisome part is that this is only the beginning for the remainder of the league. Imagine what Clark will be like in a few years. We might be looking at a player who is not just exceptional, but historically exceptional, given that she is just in her second season and is already making these kinds of improvements.
And I do think on the defensive end, it allows her to guard small forwards. And that's extremely important because Caitlin Clark is bad going around screens. Like, she is. And I do think when it comes to that, I think it gets better with Stephanie White.
Okay, so Clark is stronger and playing better, but how terrified should the rest of the league be? Let me tell you, opposing coaches are terrified of this new Clark, and I'm not just saying that because experts predict she could be the second favorite for MVP in just her second year. Can you believe that this is more than just a slight improvement?
So Caitlin Clark is somebody that is going to probably, like, she's going to, I would say, be, in my opinion, the second favorite for MVP. I think she is going to be the second favorite for MVP in the WNBA. That is how confident I am in Caitlin Clark's year 2.
Consider it. Already a prolific scorer, Clark has now enhanced her skill to the point where it's like giving a Ferrari a rocket boost. It's changing how teams have to defend her because the defenders who used to push her around are now on the losing end of a mismatch. For example, Clark used to be bullied on the court, but those days are over since now she is the one harassing others.
Like, Caitlin Clark was unbelievably skinny, and that was a problem. Even to start her WNBA career, Caitlin Clark was incredibly skinny, and she was getting bullied. She was genuinely out there, especially in her first couple of weeks in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark was getting bullied. And she genuinely, like, she was getting bigger and bigger as the season came on, as far as like, just like her, just muscle size was concerned.
It's not only about offense though, and this is where things become really fascinating. It's a completely different game now. Remember how teams used to target Clark on defense? Good luck with that. She's not just a scoring threat anymore. She's developing into a complete player. Clark's new strength is also making her a better defender. She's fighting through screens, holding her ground against bigger players.
The annoying thing is, like, it's hard to find pictures on the court that will show this, but like, you can see her. This is her in July. How much bigger her arms have gotten. This is later on in the season. Like, it's not like Caitlin Clark's not still skinny, but like, she very much bulked up. Like, and she was in the gym, in the weight room constantly.
The annoying thing is that it's difficult to find pictures on the course that will show this, but in July, you can see how much bigger her arms had gotten. Later in the season, it's not like Clark is still skinny, but she really bulked up. She was in the gym and the weight room all the time. Now, you might be wondering, is she really going to dominate right away? Well, some experts predict that she could average 25 points and 15 assists per game, which is not only good, but also historic. We're talking about possibly the first player to average a double-double with points and assists. The reason for this is that her points may actually decrease, but her assists will skyrocket because she's so strong.
I think it's an inevitability that Caitlin Clark is the first player to ever average a double-double in the WNBA with points and assists. I think she's going to likely set the record for assists per game in a season at some stage in her career.
However, let's take a moment to discuss those points. Even if they do decline somewhat, Clark's new physicality will alter her scoring. She can now post up smaller guards and back them down, score or give it out, and when she drives to the hoop, forget about it. She's finishing through contact like never before. She's no longer just depending on her outside shot.
I think it's going to be a situation where maybe she's not the best player in the world straight away. Maybe she's not the best player in the world by game 10, but we can't forget last year that she just got better and better and better. If there's a scenario where, like, I don't think it's far-fetched to say Caitlin Clark could average 23 and 10 next year.
And this is something that will have a significant impact. Referees used to frequently overlook fouls when Clark was thinner, but now that she has gained strength, those infractions will be much more noticeable, which means more visits to the free throw line, which Clark, as we all know, doesn't miss very often.
Because the goal is not for Caitlin Clark to be, realistically shouldn't be for her to be the best player in the world tomorrow. The goal should be to be the greatest player of all time. And to be the greatest of all time, you don't have to be the best player in the world next year.
Though she is only in her second year, Clark is already making these kinds of improvements. Can you imagine what she will be like in a few years? We might be looking at a player who is not just great, but historically great. This is perhaps the most concerning thing for the rest of the league.
The goal should be to fully cement yourself in that conversation next year, and then by year 3, make it so that the only argument against her being the best player in the world is A'ja Wilson herself. And then by year 4 or 5, when Juju starts to come into the league, when Juju comes in, when Hidalgo come in, people are like, oh, these are the comparisons. I mean, no one's going to have those comparisons if at that stage Caitlin Clark is coming off an MVP season and a title and is the best player in the league.
Isn't what we're witnessing unbelievable? In addition to altering her style, Caitlin Clark is transforming the WNBA as a whole. You may be thinking, okay, she has some muscles now, big deal, but this is where things start to get interesting. Every WNBA player is hearing the message loud and clear: get stronger or get left behind as a result of Clark's transformation, which is shaking the league. She isn't just bulking up for herself, she's creating a new standard.
I think it's going to be really good. It's going to be a good season for Indiana. It's going to be a good season for Caitlin Clark. And I think it is going to be interesting to see long-term it's going to be interesting to see how this Fever team does. And I expect them to be one of the 3 best teams in the W, but you just never know.
You may be wondering what this means for the next season, and I can assure you that we're going to see something truly unique. In just her second season, Clark is expected to average a double-double each game, which is not only good but MVP caliber play. Can you fathom what she will accomplish with her newfound strength and improved skills? We're talking about possible records dropping all over the place. Caitlin Clark is about to put on a performance that will have us talking for years to come. So get your popcorn and clear your schedule, because this isn't just another season, people. We're going to see history being made.